I, 29, dated a guy Joe, 30, for 3 months before he left me to go back to his ex Kim, 30. Right after we broke up I found out I was pregnant and now I'm at 24 weeks. I let him know and he was ecstatic. Turns out his girlfriend had fertility issues and would likely never be able to get pregnant naturally, and he has always wanted to be a father. Getting back together was out of the question for both of us, so he's still with his girlfriend. Joe was only allowed at the initial appointment because of COVID-19, and we found out I was having twins. According to Joe, when he told Kim, she had a mental breakdown about her infertility and wanted to talk to me. I met them at their house, and Kim stated that she wanted to be involved in my pregnancy because she would eventually be the children's stepmother. She started telling me that I needed to do a home birth, that I needed to formula feed so that they could have the babies half of the week, that she wanted one boy and one girl, and that she wanted the kid to call her mama, since they would be calling me mommy. I shut her down and said I would make the best choices for my children and my body and left. Kim continued to be overbearing and texted me every day about my eating habits, exercise habits, and benching, about how her job wouldn't let her take maternity leave. At the virtual genetics counseling appointment, she attended instead of Joe and took over the whole meeting, trying to talk about her family history which wasn't relevant. When it came time for my 20-week level 2 scan, they allowed me one guest, and Joe suggested I take Kim instead of him, which I refused to do. Joe did end up coming, and he found out the gender, because I wanted to keep it a surprise for me, so we could throw a gender reveal party. I put a pregnancy announcement on my social media, and then she put up an announcement saying they were expecting twins the non-traditional way, and how blessed she was. I was irritated, but I kept my mouth shut. Then she threw a gender reveal party and posted it on social media. I wasn't even invited. She also announced that she was having a baby shower. I commented on her posts and told her to stop treating me like a surrogate, that the kids weren't hers, and that Joe didn't have any claim or custody of the kids until they are born. I then called Joe and reiterated all of this and stated that I would not be seeing either of them until we went to family court and that my mother would be my birthing partner. He and Kim and some of her friends and family are saying I'm an idiot, and her mother even called and insisted I give her one of my babies like this is the parent trap. So, am I the idiot? Definitely not the idiot, no doubts about that. Please make sure you're careful, especially now after this crazy woman went to your workplace and caused all these issues. Kim is very much psychotic and if anything needs to go to a mental hospital. She is capable of doing something even worse. The chances are she will also be monitoring this Reddit post now that she has seen it, so I'd suggest you don't share anything too personal or anything that might give her an indication of where you're moving to. Stay safe and look after yourself and the babies. Not the idiot. This woman is completely controlling and overbearing. I get it, she can't have kids, but it's way too far that she is acting like she is the one pregnant and expecting you to do everything her way. This is your pregnancy and honestly, I wouldn't let her near the kids at all. I feel bad for the father cause he genuinely wants to be a dad, but I wouldn't give him custody if this is how she lacked and he won't step in to tell her to back off. If you have any evidence of how she is acting then definitely use that in court. I wouldn't be surprised if she tries taking the kids. So I'm sure this has been said, but this woman seems super calculated. Now that she knows everything, due date, genders, etc., she is going to be searching every hospital in the area for your newborns around the date they are expected. I might even go as far as to say I miscarried, then move away. That's probably illegal, but my sister did this to an ex 12 years ago and hasn't made contact since. He knew no different so it was never challenged. Change your numbers, emails, whatever personal info they have of yours after the babies are born. Not the idiot. I went through an ugly divorce last year. My wife has essentially let herself go through severe food addiction, and I tried everything in the quiver to try and help her and save our marriage. She had a massive public breakdown outside the mediation room, and even her attorney advised against her having any sort of decision-making custody as such. I am fully allowed to deny visitation anytime I feel it's appropriate. In conjunction with her eating disorder, we found out our son is severe hyperactivity disorder. So I was fighting both fronts at the same time. He does not react well to medication, but we have discovered that if he is on a strictly controlled diet, he functions normally and even has a super high IQ and excels at math. He's in Algebra 1 as a 6th grader. I was allowing the kids to spend one weekend night at her house, and I even sent my son his meals. Well, she fed the food I prepared to her dogs, bought the kids each a huge package of Reese's cups and put them in front of YouTube and locked herself in her bedroom. This happened 4 times before I knew what was going on. All I knew is my son was a disaster on Mondays and then would even out over the week. I approached her about it this weekend after the kids told me what was happening, and she told me the diet is real crap, he needs antidepressants and anti-anxiety. I asked what she'd been feeding them as a whole bag of Reese's can't be real. She said it's none of my business. I told her unless she told me I will insist on a weekly visit at the mall with me one table away. She called me an idiot and tried to bait me into a bigger argument. My kids love what their mom could be if she wasn't an addict, and they are very upset with me when I told them the plan because they really miss her. I feel awful, but I feel it's the right thing. Am I the idiot here? Not the idiot. She intentionally took decent food away from your children on multiple occasions and underfed them with crap. Not only is she breaking your trust by throwing that food out, but she is also hurting your children as a result of her own issues with food. Locking herself in her room while the children are there is not spending time with them or taking care of them like visitation is supposed to allow. Sounds like she probably deserves to earn the right to see them over time. Once a week in public is way better than them never seeing their mom. Not the idiot. Your responsibility is your children. Take care of them and do what's best for their health and safety. They might be a little upset with you in the short term, but they'll understand why you limited their access to their mother when they're older. What's important is that you don't completely cut them off from their mother. Yes, ensure they're safe and their health isn't being affected, but you can do that while allowing contact more than 1 hour a week, especially as your son with a strict diet is around 12. Not the idiot. Kids' health and safety come first. Is it rough? Of course, and it will be challenging to navigate for a while. Your kids deserve to be healthy and happy and have the opportunity to enjoy life. If that needs to be done through a strict diet, so be it. If that needs to be done by 15 minutes once a month supervised visits, so be it. Your son is a kid, some occasional candy in limited quantities isn't the end of the world, but there's a difference between a few pieces and an entire weekend of straight candy. You recognize and respect that difference, your ex not so much. So this is pretty straightforward. I recently moved in with my 27 boyfriend, 32, who has a 9-year-old daughter. I love his daughter and she loves me. We get along great and she is very excited to have me around as she begged him to see me more often all the time. There's just one issue. We are all a bunch of picky eaters to varying degrees. We are still working on chore distribution, so we have been random on cooking, though I've been doing about 70% of it. But keep running into the issue of his daughter not wanting to eat what I cook or like it, but saying it's too spicy. It isn't, but I tend to use more Hispanic seasonings, which give it a kick that she doesn't like. I've tried altering what I cook, but it's definitely still a struggle, and I sometimes end up cooking 2 different meals, and it stresses me out trying to figure out what she will eat. Today he was talking about me changing a few more things about dinner and not using the spices I use when she is around, etc. I said okay. But I asked him, can we make a deal? He asked what I meant and I told him that maybe we can alternate weeks where we handle dinner. He handles dinner when 9-year-old is here, he has half custody and she lives with us every other week, and I can handle dinner when it's just the 2 of us. I specified that handling dinner could mean cooking or buying takeout. At first, he said okay. But I guess he thought about it and changed his mind. He said that it wasn't fair, because if he decided he wanted to do takeout sometimes, he would be paying for dinner for 3 people, while if I wanted to do takeout I would be paying for 2. And this wasn't fair because eating out can get expensive with 3 people. And honestly, I was just like, okay, so? You're complaining because you have to pay for your daughter? I love her and food expenses are one thing I genuinely don't care about. It's a human necessity. We have a 60-40 split on groceries because I make more than him. And I even help with her daycare. So I don't see the issue. He got upset and has been grumpy at my response and went to bed acting salty. So now I am wondering if I am the idiot. He can be very frugal with household expenses. But I also think if he doesn't mind spending on the newest consoles and games, I don't think he should complain about paying for food for his own daughter. Not the idiot. She doesn't enjoy your cooking because of the spices you use. There's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with your cooking. You wanted a fair division of labor between you and your boyfriend. Ask him if it's fair for you to prepare twice the amount of meals, since you keep making her another meal when she refuses what you cook. He thinks that's okay, but it's not okay for him to pay for his daughter's food. Every time she refuses your meal, he can put his food aside and prepare her a new meal. Okay, you need to sort out the finances and responsibilities in your relationship before you marry the guy. You should have sorted it all out before you moved in with him. I think you need to move out because right now he's taking you for granted, profiting from the relationship with you, and it's only going to get worse. You should not be paying for the childcare. You need to save money and buy your own place if you want to own one, because if you marry and stay at his place, you will invest in it but won't get anything out of it if you were to divorce. Not the idiot. And at 9 she's more than old enough to have a policy of if you don't like the meal, that's okay, you can make something for yourself. There should be no you cooking a second meal for her, what the hell. She's old enough to make herself toast or a ham sandwich or something. That doesn't mean actively making meals she'll dislike, but it's a good way to teach her to handle herself in situations where things don't go her way. Maybe pick up a kid's cookbook for her. Have her be the sous chef from time to time too. My 29 dad passed away a few years ago. Both me and my sister were left his estate in his will when he passed. Our dad changed his will a couple of years before he passed away, removing our mom from it. Our parents were separated and in the middle of divorce proceedings when he died. My mom had an affair, which resulted in the breakdown of their marriage about 10 years ago. Subsequently, it caused a lot of heartbreak, arguments, and hostility not just between themselves, but also for me and my sister towards our mom. This has somewhat resolved as the years passed. My sister was amicable with mom, for me. Our relationship was pretty much back to normal. I struggle with hating on others and find it easier to resolve the issue and carry on. My dad confided in me some of the details of the divorce, most of which I would have rather not known, but he had no one else to speak with regarding it, I suppose. Basically, it did not paint my mom in the best light, and honestly the actions and behaviors I observed her displaying following their separation tallied up to this. Unreasonable demands were made with regards to finances and basically wanting to take most of my dad's pension. Following his death, when his will was read to us, we then discovered my mom had been written out of his will. Our mom is wanting to take legal proceedings against us if we decide not to give her over half of the money he has left to us. She wants us to discuss via mediation. Our extended family, who know some details about this issue, appear divided as to what we do. Both myself and my sister believe she should not receive any of this money, however, I feel guilty. But on the other hand, her actions since his death and her apparent greed repulse me. I feel torn and worried that I am being an idiot, as I don't feel we should have to give her any of his estates. Not the idiot, please get a lawyer, as the laws will be different depending on where you live. Since the divorce is not final, she may have spousal rights and can possibly contest the will. We cannot advise you properly on this aspect. In terms of you feeling guilty, don't. Your father made a conscious decision on how he wished his estate to be divided. Imagine if this was 10 years from now and he passed, you wouldn't feel conflicted. Don't let the timing influence your thinking. So sorry for the loss of your father. Hey DROP, I was in an extremely similar situation. My mum died prematurely whilst they were in the separation phase. Whilst they were alive, it was that nasty they actually went to court to divide assets. My mum still loved my dad and didn't want him to leave, which left a load of uncomfortable decisions to be had sometimes after she passed. However, my mum changed her will. So did yours. This is a deliberate act and we need to trust it. You're what she wanted her spoils for. Sending hugs. OP, she noped out of that marriage 10 years ago when she decided to have an affair. Regardless of what your father told you or what you witnessed, she did that. That's your money. Your dad knew who he wanted that to go to, and no one should override that regardless of the situation. That your mother is willing to nuke the relationship with her children for money shows you the woman she is. As selfish as she was 10 years ago. Legal action hopefully has no legs. I hope you have the resolve to cut this leech out of your life. Not the idiot. My deaf friend made me feel like crap, and when I told her I couldn't hang out with her anymore, her sister and mother kept telling me I was abandoning her until I completely cut ties with her. We were in the same class for 3 years. In grade 9, I was 14, I used to sit next to her and she'd copy down my notes. I'd explain every lecture to her. My teachers and her parents had told me that I didn't have to help her. I told them that I knew but I wanted to help her. A few weeks into grade 9, I found it a bit hard to help her. She'd disturb me in between lectures to ask me stuff, and if I explained it to her, we'd miss out on the lecture. Our teachers always refused to go back because time would be short and would instead ask us to see them after class for revision, but I had consecutive classes so I couldn't go. She also wanted all my attention to herself. I couldn't hang out with my friends because she'd get hurt otherwise. I liked to spend my 20-minute recess with my best friend, but when she wanted to join I'd spend the whole time communicating everything to her. She didn't speak in signs, she only knew how to lip read. If I would upset her unknowingly, she'd write letters to my sister behind my back and begged her not to tell me. My sister would tell me anyway. Once she wrote a letter about how my attitude was getting worse and how I was snapping at her, which never happened. She quickly became dependent on me, and it became more of a burden to help her. I didn't want to give up on her because her grades were improving, but mine was dropping and I was losing interest in all my classes. Whenever I'd take a day off from school, she'd text me about how I should have given her a heads up. After our mids, I told her I couldn't help her anymore, but she went completely cold and kept shutting me off. I explained we'd still be friends, but I won't help her like I used to. When I got home I was bombarded with calls from her mother, who kept asking me to imagine myself being deaf. I told her I understood where she was coming from, but I still couldn't help her anymore. She kept insisting that I should go a day with cotton stuffed in my ears to go a day being deaf. I hung up. My sister was bombarded with calls from the friend's sister about how I was a bench for abandoning her and that I shouldn't have helped her in the first place if it meant I was going to abandon her. My sister told her to shut up. I haven't talked to her since then because all my attempts at getting things back to normal were met with a cold shoulder. I didn't try to make any more efforts. In grade 11 she lied about something which turned into a big thing that got me in a lot of trouble for no reason, because of which I had a major emotional breakdown. At the end of the year, she apologized by writing sorry for everything on a piece of paper, but I threw it away and left. I should have accepted her apology. I understand she needed me, but I couldn't anymore. My friends think I was right, but some people in our class and her family think that I'm an idiot. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, you're not acting like her friend, you're acting as her caretaker. For her mother or anyone else to expect a teen of the same age to be her caretaker and unpaid for the services is ridiculous. OP, you are being used. Just because your former friend has a disability doesn't mean that she can treat you like trash. If she was apologizing and just wanted to be your friend, that would be one thing, but it appears she is apologizing because she doesn't want to deal with the consequences of her actions. Not the idiot. This girl's parents should have warned her not to become dependent on you right from the start. Instead, her whole family treated you like a hired tutor. You did not abandon her, instead, you tried to reclaim your own life. You might ask your parents to contact her parents to straighten them out. That girl's mother had no business asking you to go a day with your ears stuffed with cotton. The thing to console yourself with is, you have a bright future and this girl, going down the path she's on now, has a lifetime of conflict ahead of her. Not the idiot. As others have said, it wasn't your responsibility to help her in the first place, but she responded to your kindness by monopolizing your time and attention and generally treating you as if your purpose in life was to help her. You tried to be her friend, and she tried to make you her servant and caused a lot of problems for you in the process, and when you tried to put up healthy boundaries, she attacked you for it. You don't owe her anything, not even an acceptance of her apology. Best to just move on from people like that.